Siodoichu. Tawado kuno khali dana da khuna giske chalagi kanyanwi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time zones you are in. This is Chief Eagle Spirit Dancing with another edition of Indigenous Peoples News Network. I come to you as most times with a heavy heart in light of everything that is going on, things that have been foretold, prophecies that have been handed down, scriptures, however which books you may read, Bible, Torah, Quran, doesn't matter, because all of them describe great devastations and destructions. Even Wavoka, who came to the indigenous peoples in the Midwest at the time of conflict between the American government and the indigenous peoples, the Lakota. You could say really all of the tribes. There was no exemption. They were after all of our lands everywhere. And then Wovoka came with a vision to tell the people that don't cry for the ones who are dead, and don't cry for those who were going to suffer, that there would come a time that indeed this man and his kingdom would fall. Well, my people, we are in such times now. We are indeed in those times today. Ironically enough, the topic of discussion, Cassie! The topic of discussion, someone that I had to say good morning to. The topic of discussion today, and this is a serious one, tribalism, Lord. Something that I've been chewing on for quite some time. Tribalism. You know, there's nothing wrong with tribalism, but when it comes to the point where the least common denominator of all of the tribes do not see an enemy that's within and without, one that will destroy your practical way of living, your moral values, your spiritual values, your cultural values, your linguistical communications in the way we speak and talk to one another is interrupted or destroyed by those who do not want to see you live in those things that the tribes hold dear. And when I'm going to be blunt here, the Native American Indian tribe, black people, brown people, we all had cultural, moral values and traditions that were much different than the Western way of doing things. Their approach to interacting with others was deceive, seek, and destroy. And if they could outright destroy, they knew that their numbers were superior and their weapons superior, that they would ultimately just come out. There was no deception. They would just come out and destroy us. And that they did. But when they knew that they were outnumbered, in some cases, they had to deceive, divide and conquer. So now, my point that I want to make with Osio, who is this? Ty, Osio Ty. My point that I want to make with this is the divide and conquer tactics that these people use. They know that as long as we are tribalists, listen, I want y'all to hear me really well on this one, because this is, we are at the end of this empire. Our people divided, we are, some through language, some through some cultures, some traditions that we have, varies. The bigger issue here is we have a moral compass bigger than the West. We've lost our way because of colonialism for the past 400 to 500 years. In other words, as Khalid said, automatic, systematic, remote control. We have become like that which we detest. You think about it. I mean, reflecting on how we were destroyed. What did the white man say? He said, kill the Indian, save the man. Which man is that? So what kind of man did they turn us into? Not the indigenous man that we once were, what our moral compass, because we had it, it was within our hearts and our minds. We knew when the white man came, at least we thought, when first we saw him coming off the boats, we saw him with his children, his women, men. And what was the first thought in a lot of the tribes? Oh, whoever these people are, they're not coming with malice, they're not coming with war, they got their women and children with them. Who does that? Because when we had our wars and conflicts, it was the men who fought. And if they were coming to invade, they said, why would they come to invade with their women and children? So we didn't know the thinking of this man. We didn't know the thinking of him, because we saw a human being, okay, different in color, but we didn't know that his mind was that devious, because we never came across someone like him before. So I'm gonna wrap this one up quick. And being that we were of a different mindset, we didn't know that hell was coming, or that hell had landed on our shores. Right, mind of a barbarian, or we call him the wicked one, or a demon, which he still is. So our people have lost the idea that our morality and within our culture, our morality was, I'm gonna say it again, our morality was within the culture. Because when we saw them coming, we said, what man would bring his women and children to invade, to destroy? It was out of our conception. Mentally, we were like, okay, you know, these people must be all right. Not knowing that he was a barbarian before he got there in Europe. They were fighting amongst themselves. They had fought with some other darker peoples out in Europe as well, where they were coming from. And that he was a beast by nature. We didn't know of this. Now tribalism. I don't want to get too much off topic with that, because this is serious. This is really a serious issue. Tribalism today. And this man knows that we're divided. He is playing upon our divisions on social media. Right? And I want to bring up recent historical, and I mean recent, from the 1990s, example of how being manipulated through tribalism by your enemy can not only hurt you, but destroy you. Back in 1996, I don't know if you guys remember, under the Clinton administration, some of you guys are younger, I'm 57 years old now, so there were two factions of people in Rwanda, in Africa. The Hutus and the Tutsis. I might have spoken about this in a couple other videos, but I tell you, I can't emphasize this enough because it is reflective of what's going on here in social media and our people today. And it's more dangerous than a nuclear bomb. All right, let me get into it. The Hutus and the Tutsis were two tribal factions in Rwanda, going all the way back to the Congo, under King Leopold, the Belgians, the Germans, same people. They found rubber in the Congos, and they went there. Europeans went there and they mined it, but they used the Africans that were there, and they know that they had their tribal factions, the Hutus and the Tutsis. Now, I believe it was. Don't quote me on this. Sometimes I get mixed up between who was who. But they said because I think it was the Tutsis, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of, the African imagery that they portray in terms of how they look, they always perpetuate an image of Africans with broad noses, thick lips, features that they would try to promote and say that this is ugly. Well, then they got some damn nerve. They did this because the Tutsis, they had different appearance. Black people come in many different phenotypes. And you're right, they said that more, right, they did this for over 100 years, unbeknownst to a lot of people. White folks did this in Rwanda. And you know what he did to create more and more conflict? He played favoritism to one group, which was the Tutsis. Whether they gave them better loans, told them in public, oh, you don't look African. You're a Tutsi, right? You look better than the Hutu. Excuse me, those Hutus over there. See, in Islam, we call what the devil, we call him Shaitan or Satan, or the whisperer. The whisperer, because he's whispering in your ear. Now look at the Hispanic. I'm going to deviate just a little bit. Look at the Hispanic situation. Why so many of them support white people? Who's been whispering in their ears? And for how long? And most of them do not know that the white man had been whispering in their ears for the past 150 years. The indigenous peoples, because that's what they were before what? The infusion, or should I say the rape of the indigenous by who? The Spaniards, another group of white people. Now we're talking from Africa, the Belgians, the Germans, to who? The Spaniards. They ain't no different. Listen, I don't care where you find white people on the planet. To me, most of them are just about all the same, with an exceptional few. All right. So I hope y'all with me. So I want you to stay with me. Thank you, sister. It's only all praise to God. I give all my knowledge to God. No one else. No one else. So colorism was used here in the past. It's still being used. And some of our own people are guilty. Some of our own people, from dark to brown to red, yellow, some of our own people, and the darker peoples, we got all manner of colors within our family. And some of our mothers, grandmothers have been taught, don't you bring that nappy head home. Don't you bring that dark hair. Where did we learn that foolishness? Right, but if we don't reprogram the way we think, we'll never be able to effectively change ourselves and our children. Just like I was talking to a sister the other day. I said, what do you tell your child when they go into school? I said, don't you tell them, anybody put your hands on you, you send them to the cemetery. You better not come home with no bruises, or I'm gonna kick your butt again. Ooh, we sending our children to destruction. We setting them up in their own community amongst their own young brothers, their peers that look like them, to hate. You don't teach your children to be respectful of your young brothers in the street, so it starts off on a negative path from the very beginning. Listen, I don't want to deviate to your mother look Asian. That's all right. It's all right. That's all right. It's the knowledge that we have up here. Asian means light of the world. First, it doesn't mean slanty eyes. It means light of the world. You know, a lot of people are really under a cloak of darkness when it comes to the origins and the etymologies of these words. Asia, Asian. Everybody thinks, oh, you have to have slanty eyes. And no, that's not what Asia means. Right? This is what my teachers told me. So I don't want to deviate too much. I really want to emphasize this thing about this tribalism thing, because people don't know we are on the precipice of conflict in this country. And racial conflict, oh my God, is worse than a nuclear bomb. I had to really, because this part comes from the Minister Farrakhan. He taught this back in the 1980s. And I had a lot to digest, to process this, listening, a race war worse than a nuclear bomb. I was like, how can that be? You know, and then I really thought about it. And I said, oh, wait a minute. We're talking about a race war that wouldn't just be between black and white. So getting back to Rwanda, these white folks played this shit so well. These Hutus and Tutsis did not see that they were being set up to fight and kill themselves. And they were just waiting for that spark, something, and it was through, guess what? Economics. White folks play everyone who don't look like them through economics and have you fighting and arguing amongst yourselves. Next thing you know, you killing yourselves. So next thing you know, the Hutus, they flip. And then where did they get the weapons and the guns to go kill? I don't know how many of you seen the movie Rwanda with Don Cheadle in it. That movie tore at my spirit because I knew who was responsible for that situation there. Tore me to pieces. Thought that was too so he said it was horrible like a river. Yeah, that's what's coming here. That's what's coming, brother. That's what's coming here. It was prophesied that would happen because of the ignorance of the people, man. Tribalism. Our people don't see the common denominator, the real enemy. Firstly, ignorance within ourselves. Firstly, and then well, who was the man perpetuating the ignorance? And we eating it up. So they start fighting and killing themselves in Rwanda. And you heard one of the generals say, we want to kill the Tutsi cockroaches. I said, my God. I said, oh my God. Now that's another, a lot of black people, brown people who are jumping up to go back to Africa, fine. But there are problems there too, to this very day. And this is not just relegated to Rwanda. See, when Satan was found, God said to Satan, what have you, where from thou do you come? I come from the bowels of the earth. I go to and fro all over the planet, deceiving nations. That's in the scriptures. Deceiving nations. Remember I told you guys the whisperer. That's what this white man is. Because he's envious and jealous that the resources around the planet, the best parts of the planet, the darker peoples live there. He's always found this to be factual. So therefore, when you're envious and jealous, you covet that which you see and that which you want. What does he do every time he sets his foot somewhere that he's not from there? He says, what are you doing on my soil? He goes to South Africa. He said, I'm South African. Now you got white folks, of course, we've known this. And this is partially our fault. How the hell do you invite a man as wicked as that into your native indigenous tribes and call him Native American. Huh? Okay, all right. The term Native American within itself is an oxymoron, because our people 200-300 years ago never called themselves Native American. We didn't even have to call ourselves indigenous. Why? We're on our own soil. Huh? We never had to call ourselves Native American and did none of that. Why? Because we were conquered. And because so many of us were being tricked and deceived by the arch deceiver, that, you know, we allowed some of them into our communities, and now we Native American. Named after our goddamn Italian. I know some people say it's not America's Vespucci. They're saying it's American. They're changing the pronunciation. I ain't got time for all that. You go back 200-300 years, we never called ourselves Native American. We spoke so many different languages here. That's another reason why we had trouble. Because even though, you know, we were indigenous, and there were many of us, we didn't ally ourselves. Sometimes we had conflicts and wars with our own people here, because we had different what? Tribes, customs, traditions, languages, and we fought over sometimes resources and land, you know, and because of that, we could never come together universally as a people. Now, you know, my brothers and sisters listening to this, if our people from coast to coast had a united, tell me, come on, talk to me, had this man come across a force like that, would he have ever taken this country? Huh? Hell no. Hell no. So the lesson here, I've been talking about this for time immemorial, talk to people, some of us, and the confusion that's here, as spoken of in the book of Corinthians, the 15th chapter, I think it's verse 36 to 38. God said, or 34 to 36, I am not the author of confusion. So who created all this confusion? Now, you know, all of the information that's coming out that the darker peoples had been here in America, whether they had kinky hair, curly hair, straight hair, we know the white man was not here first. Huh? We know he wasn't here first. But so, our people today, you got the straight hair Indians who live on the reservations in the Midwest, some in the South. They don't want to have nothing to do with the darker indigenous peoples. Some of them is just as racist as those who ran them off their lands. How the hell, this is what I'm talking about when the white man said, kill the Indian, save the man. What kind of man did he create? Huh? Who have we become? And this country which is going out, are we supposed to inherit this country back with the way we are? So divided because of different colors now, different hair textures now, which really should be of no concern. But some people are afraid of losing their identity. They don't want to, you know, their features. They don't want to change their hair textures, you know, this and that. Instead of thinking of what's in the heart, that's more important. Because did we not fight and have wars and conflicts amongst ourselves, even though when we look congruent to some degree, there was a fair not differences in terms of too many different features and hair textures, but we still fought and were divided and killed each other. You understand what I'm saying? So if that's the case, and that is the case, then what are we so upset for? You invited so many white people into your circles. When Tecumseh traveled up and down the eastern seaboard from the Shawnee peoples, he tried to speak to the indigenous peoples and said, look, this man has come to take the whole country from our people. He said, if we don't unite under the least common denominator, they're going to take the whole thing. And we still haven't learned. We still dealing with tribal issues and not a universal organization of indigenous peoples that we should come under one banner. But I tell you, the day coming, like what happened in Rwanda, it's going to be 10 times worse. It's going to be 10 times worse than what happened over there. The writings are on the wall. The die is cast. We're headed for terrible days. Terrible days. Tribalism. My God. My God, I don't want to deal with those Indians over there. You know, they got their own. But now we're going to be forced either to work together or we're going to die as fools. Sad. It's so sad. Like Africa, but we are indigenous here. Yeah. I mean, look, you know, God put us on different parts of the planet, but he said still get to know your neighbor and don't be disrespectful when you're in their house. Now, another problem we got today, we got foundational Black Americans. And, you know, they're upset. Now, I'm Black and Native American. And people got to understand that the history in this country is not good. We come from enslavement, indigenous peoples too. The white man mixed all of us up, mixed all of our people up and gave us different identities. They said, you're no longer indigenous, now you're a nigger. You're no longer Indian, now you're a nigger. Even though we never called ourselves Indian. Come on, let's get real. Come on now. We went by our nationalities, what tribes we came from. That's what we called ourselves, whether it was Penobscot, Seneca, Jalagi. We did not call ourselves Indian. Christopher Columbus was lost looking for India. So our people, the devil is using race and we're falling into his traps. Still. We haven't learned our lesson. So how are we worthy, come on, of getting our country back when we haven't learned the lessons of those who have deceived our forefathers? What have we learned? We haven't made any real progress. We're more divided than ever today. So we look forward to building up our tribal communities, which is a beautiful thing, but we need to reach out more, network with others. I got people, listen, Facebook, there was a Lakota woman, she attacked me, came out of the blue, because I was adopted, didn't find my family till I was 25. My peoples come from South Carolina and North Carolina, from the Occaneechi and Company peoples, my father's side, and then my mother's side, the Cherokees in North Carolina. So a lot of our people, and this is what the media has done, they have placed the Midwestern Plains Indians as being virtually almost the only indigenous peoples, or either the northeastern tribes from up in upper New York going all the way up to Maine, because they did that with the, what was that, the Last of the Mohegans, with that white boy who played one of the Last of the which was a joke, Daniel Day-Lewis. And they would put these people as the only indigenous peoples. You hardly saw any of the darker indigenous brothers and sisters. They would never show a brother who would look so-called African American as a native. They would never do that. No one, when this man came to the area, he found black, brown, red, and then more likely some of the yellow came in as a result of mixing with white people, whether voluntarily or involuntarily. And now people have the belief that the whiter looking Indians were always here. No. They had actually been mixing with others all the way back to Europe before they came over here, and they brought some of them people over as well with them. And some of our people have mixed with, there was so much mixing going on. You listen, it was a soup bowl. That's how all of the confusion came about. People don't, you can't hardly trace anything. And then they did the $5 Indian thing. White man set this up. We want to keep tabs on them. And then they said, well, if you're Indian, come. And all these white people came. Yeah, we're Indian. We have 1/8 blood. We have 1/4 blood. And they gave their $5 and said, oh, now you're Indian. You can't make this stuff up. That's how wicked and evil this man is. So now we are living today as a result of what happened yesterday, because tomorrow's based on today, and today's based on yesterday. So our people are lost, a lot of us, trying to find the roots. But I wanted to get back to what I was telling you about this Lakota woman attacking me. She saw me with some of the regalia that I had on, and she said to me, what are you doing with our people's regalia? I had I believe sash on, wrapped up around my head, a scarf, and then some other things that could have been connected. I said, look, I was adopted, trying to find our people's culture when you've been separated for so long to boarding schools, slavery. Trying to find one's culture and roots is like needle in a haystack. So what references do a lot of our people have? Hollywood. Even though now God bless those who are deeply and have been connected, like in the South, parts of California and parts of the West, some of the darker indigenous, and they still have some of their languages, even though they're disappearing very, very quickly. And they have knowledge of their regalia and how they dress. They do. A lot of them do. But to those of us who have been lost, like myself, in my families, I'm the only one in my family. And boy, do I tell you, I got a big family. I'm the only one, except for my second cousin down in South Carolina, and she told me about our peoples. But in terms of like the dress, the information was very scant. It wasn't, it was vague. So even before that, at the time when I lost my security company, I started to get into some of the indigenous regalia, and from what I saw, I got into the dress, and it was some of the Plains Indians, which I wasn't trying to mock them. It was that I was so sick and tired of the Western world to a degree. My spirit was low because I lost my security company in New York because of my business partner, and my spirit was low. And God said, "Go study. You got the time now. Go study your native culture and your family. Go dig deep." And boy, did I get a big shovel. So the sister attacked me, calling me, oh, she said you're not native. And I said, I'm not white. And she said, oh, you're black. Like that was supposed to be derogatory. And, I'm thinking to myself, this is the plague of the mind of what centuries have done to our people. And the sad thing about it, again, with the tribalism today that's going on, those type of people be the first ones ready to go to war against people like myself and other brothers and sisters who identify as being indigenous. You see the danger? You see the danger with a collapse in government in this country? It's on the horizon. People don't really see how dangerous this shit is. It's extremely dangerous. So God sends warners into the world, and me myself knowing and understanding how this thing came about, what's the source of it, try to expose it. That we're being played. Like they're playing chess, we're playing checkers. It's that simple. and we're going to be up at each other's throats. You know, for our people not to understand that we've been manipulated, just like the Hutus and the Tutsis. It's horrible. I lost my church friends because I said I was native. They said natives have long, straight hair. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah. See, because of television. Ask them how many times they have done any investigations or research on the indigenous peoples. Do you know that they're finding that black people were in South Carolina over 40,000 years ago? All the information coming out now. Over 40,000 years, they found that black people were here. Now, you know, the when we say black people now, come on. We got black people who got dark-skinned black people with straight hair. And we got dark-skinned black people with kinky hair. If you I'm gonna try to break this down. The age of our people is not what we know. White people have said the earth was made 6,000 years ago. Come on, we know that that's been debunked. Right? So if it's not 6,000 years old, then how old is this planet? I know it as being over trillions of years old. With a T. So when you start researching, and this is what our brother Yeshua said 2,000 years ago, he said, Ikra, that's Hebrew. Read, study, make thyself worthy unto God. He said, God, if you take one step towards God, he'll take two steps towards you. Well, I did that. I've been, since I was 7 years old, put up in foster care, and then adopted by a family once my brother was a Muslim, and not from the Middle East. Not from, no disrespect to the Middle East, but it's a different culture in the terms of the Islam that I learned growing up. Much different. It's kept me as a better man today as a result. So I learned things about this planet and the history of this planet that ain't getting in no public schools. I found, now I don't know if you guys heard about the ancient so-called Egyptian artifacts they found in the Grand Canyon. Now where's the Grand Canyon? Come on. Where's the Grand Canyon? Not in America? Now, if you ever, I want you guys to take a serious look at this. Have you ever seen the Arikara peoples, some of the Apache, and other indigenous tribes in California, and Nevada, and all those places, and go look at some of the ancient Egyptian statuettes that they have when they show their soldiers. They would have a board with soldiers lined up. They're all dark skinned, and they would have their right foot stretched out with their left receded behind, and then they would have a staff. They would have a staff moving forward like this. You look at their features, you look at their complexions, and if you've seen some old pictures of some of the Arikara, some of the Apache, they were dark skinned. Some of them straight hair, some of their hairs were a little curly. And you look at the way they dressed. Some of them had tutus on. But if you look at the ancient Egyptian dress, the dress was similar. So I said to myself, what the hell was ancient Egyptian artifacts doing in the Grand Canyon? And how long have they been there? I know a greater history. You know, I can't really get deep into it here in this, this video, but I know a much greater history that has to do with our moon. A much greater history. You're talking over 66 trillion years ago. See, white folks got us so nullified in our understanding of the history of this planet. We only go so far as to what he's taught us. We don't know that there is another history about this planet and our people that goes way beyond what he knows. We are the red man. Red, black, and brown. We have different hues Ty, we have different hues. You know, if you're in the sun, now you see, I'm like a reddish complexion, right? Myself, right? But if I go in the sun, I get darker. Now you're gonna tell me, people who lived in the sun, Nevada, Arizona, I've seen pictures of the Apache. They dark brown because they're constantly in the sun. You got melanin. The melanin interacts with the sun with the vitamin D and other vitamins, and it protects you. It's a protectorant from the sun. Copper colored, darker. I mean, you know, we could. Did you know? All right, you see Chuck Berry? Chuck Berry was Cherokee, right? The singer from back in the days. He is dark skinned. He was on the Say what? Yeah, you ever heard of Chuck Berry? Yeah. Well, he was registered as a Cherokee Indian. I believe it was from down in Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken, where he was born. Yeah. Like I said, I'm 57 years old, sister. I'm a well-researched brother. And he's dark-skinned. Come on. We got many different hues of the indigenous peoples today. But I'm going to tell you something. Listen. We got to get off this color thing amongst the black, the brown, the red, and the yellow. If we don't get off it, you see what happened out in Rwanda? Like I told you, what's going to happen here is going to be 1,000 times worse. Because not only because of the tribalism, because of ignorance of color. Now, the black, the brown, the red, and the yellow peoples. When you look at the last one, which is white, we studied the white man under the microscope. And I'm talking about in the semen of the black man. Listen to me. And under a microscope, the black, brown, red, and yellow was attacked by the white germ. I was just teaching this to a Korean the other day. He attacked all of the other colors under the microscope. His germ went after everyone else. Now, you know, he kind of looked at me like, how is that? And I said, well, look, when the Germans invaded Poland, when they went after some of their own people in Europe, and then the Japanese linked up with Germany. So that's why I love history. When the Japanese linked up with history, the white man was working on an atomic weapon. With all of the hell that Hitler poured on his own people, the Jews, because he found out they weren't the original Jews. Fine, all right? You think that he would drop the bomb, the American white man would drop a bomb on who? On Hitler? No. Who did he drop the bomb on? Japan. Who did the white man go, where did the white man go when he came out of Europe attacking the peoples? The black, the brown, the red, and the yellow. Come on. Talk to me. Am I wrong? He attacked all the colors, even his own self. If this man ain't the devil, I don't know who the hell is. And I ain't waiting to die to find out, talking about I gotta go to hell, I gotta die. No, I'm in hell right now on earth, dealing with these people. So they dropped the nuclear bomb on the yellow man, the Japanese. For invading Pearl Harbor, really? Come on, they knew that they was coming to Pearl Harbor. Roosevelt knew. They know. That's why they moved the ships from California from Pearl Harbor to California. They knew what they was coming. Because they wanted an excuse to get in the war. Because war is what? Profit, money. Where we at now again today? The only man on the face of the earth to have world wars. World War I. I remember my father shaking his head after World War II when he came home blinded. He fought over in Italy coming home, and then the Vietnam War started, and he's shaking his head sitting at the dinner table. He couldn't see it, but he could hear it, shaking his head going like this. They told us after World War II, there would be no more wars. They said the same thing after World War I. They said, oh, no more wars. Now here we are. Look, we're on the precipice of World War III, which is the final war. Because this man gonna be removed from power, whether he likes it or not. He's done. All of these weather events that are taking place, it's not just global warming. All of these so-called UFOs that they're seeing are not aliens. And I know that emphatically. I know who they are, and I know what they are, and I know where they are. See, when people don't study, you get caught up in someone else's version of truth. You got to be like an investigator. Huh? I see them in North Carolina. Yeah, sister, they spoken of in the book of... So my Christian family here, tell me this. If God is a spirit, in the book of Genesis, it says that God created a wheel that was 1/2 mile by 1/2 mile. Ezekiel saw a vision of a wheel coming in from the north country, and it had smoke and fire round about. And as it hovered close to the ground, he looked up and saw what looked like a man coming out of it. And he said, "Oh my God," and fell to his knees and started to pray. In the book of Joshua, Joshua looked up and saw God coming out of a cloud on what looked like a ship, a vessel. And he was a bronze complexion. This is in the book of Joshua. I read it. Daniel saw a wheel whipping around east, west, north to south. Now I said, if God is a spirit, what the hell does he need with a ship? You see, we really don't know. We really don't know how old we are. We're the masters on this planet. We're more than just indigenous peoples with our beautiful cultures. We're more than that. The Kunti, the pyramids, that which they're finding all over the planet, which he ain't find a white face in one of them. He found nothing but the darker people's faces inside of all of these institutions that they call burial grounds, which is a travesty and a falsehood. He knows damn well there's nothing but black and brown people, red peoples that built these institutions. I call them institutions because that's what they were. Or power stations. Yeah, you heard what I said. I said power stations. You think electricity is something new? Benjamin Franklin? Get the hell out of here with that. He was allowed to tell that lie for a while because he's new on our planet. He just got here 6,000 years ago. That's like 6 days. In terms of our history, we got to come out the box of inferiority, thinking that this man has created the greatest world that we've ever seen. Oh, no. No, this is Fred Flintstone. This is bedrock compared to what our God and the God that I know that's here. You hear me? So, you know, he understands. That's why they're coming after wokeism. They scared our people consciousness waking up to the true history of this planet and our peoples. We had better learn to reconnect with ourselves and our God. We need to go back home. See, the God that lives within us is the moral teachings that we had. And I'm going to go back again to refresh your memory. When the white man came with his people, we looked and said, they got his women and children with him. They're not coming for no malice or any, conflict. We had no idea he was coming here to steal, to rape, to rob, to pillage, to murder, cause all sorts of confusion and destruction and devastation. We had no idea. So we've lost that within our hearts and our minds for our people. Well, we were given a time to unite, though. The time ran out. So therefore, we had to be taught a lesson. And you think today that our people would see who our real enemy is? First, ignorance. Second, these people who have destroyed us. And we allowed it. And some of us are still allowing it, sending our children to Catholic schools, this Christian private schools, thinking that they're going to teach you about who you really are. Come on. There's no way he's ever going to teach our people who we are. We must do prayer and study. That's the only way God speaks to you through what's called the third eye, or the pineal gland that sits between the left and the right hemispheres in the brain, which is in fact an antenna. It's an antenna. I speak to God every day. You think what I've learned just came through study of books? No. No, it's come through prayer, fasting. So I tell my Christian family, I said, didn't our brother Yeshua, Jesus, didn't he fast? So how many of you fasting? How many of you getting the toxins out of your system? The physical ones and the mental ones, because once the physical toxins enter into body, they poison what's called the God gland, the third eye. So therefore your spiritual lens has diminished incredibly. So you can't see. This is what our brother was teaching. The blind leading the blind, and the deaf cannot hear because we're full of toxins. And it's hard for me to reach my people as a result whenever I'm teaching. This is why they wanted our brother dead 2,000 years ago. He was waking up those that were mentally, spiritually, morally, culturally, linguistically dead and deaf, blind, deaf, and dumb. And he knows this. He knows this. That's why he poisons our food. We know that the system is full of poisons. From the schools to the supermarkets to the restaurants. That's why Jesus said to fast. That was one thing. And most of our people will believe that we must eat 3 meals a day. Way to a fast death in terms of our body not being able to handle all of those toxins all at once. And then our minds are affected. A 24-year-old young man was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in this country several years ago. A 24-year-old. Alzheimer's. If that's not a wake-up call, I don't know what is. The white man's putting aluminum, sodium phosphate, sodium fluoride in practically everything. Most of our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. That's in the scriptures, because we don't study or read nothing. So therefore, when the products that you purchase off of the shelves in the supermarkets, you don't read it. And then we have Google. We got Google, and we don't take the time out to say, what is maltodextrin? What is glyphosate? What is tricalcium phosphate? What are we feeding our children as poison? It's causing our children to act out in schools. What's wrong with you? Why did you do that? Not knowing that these toxins, these poisons will affect your children's behavior. This man knows this. So my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. He knows that we're ignorant. It's a damn shame. So forgive me, my brothers and sisters, forgive me for going off on a rant, This the spirit sometimes that, catches me. I have so much information up in his head sometimes, and I have to let loose. I have to let go. But my drive is from God. Well, this I do. I put my life on the line. Tell them I come on here, because these people, white people, are upset now. They're upset because of our brothers and sisters like myself that are out here teaching our people. He doesn't want to disturb the landscape. You gotta understand that he's happy with his slaves. You heard me? He's happy with his slaves. Now he sees there's trouble in the quarters. In the towns, in the barrios, in the cities. There's trouble brewing. And what is that trouble? Us. So he fears retaliation for what he's done to the darker peoples of the earth. And justifiably so. I mean, you look at the level of carnage you left behind. We are that carnage. So why would he not be scared thinking that we want to do to him what he's done to us, as though we were that sick, as though we were that depraved. We know damn well that we are nowhere near nothing like him. That's how you know we God's people. Even in the midst of all of what he's done to us. But we have no problems, though, and this is where our God gets angry with us. We got no problems hurting and killing each other, destroying each other, not educating each other, not taking the time out to study and learn about who we really are. He left books, the notes for us to study and research. I consider myself blessed because of my adoption. It was a curse and a blessing at the same time, because of where I was starting. I listen, Islam is my religion, but Islam is not a religion. It's a way of life. I don't necessarily go to mosques. I've been to churches most of my life and learned practically nothing in the church, but hooting and hollering, jumping up and down, talking about love me some Jesus in my adolescent years. Never forget the foaming at the mouth from the choir to the drummers to the pastor on the floor. I thought it was the exorcist. Scared the crap out of me. And trust me when I tell you, I've been to so many different churches and denominations growing up. I'm from the Bronx, but my family's from down south. And I would always travel to the south in the summertime. Churches practically no different than up in the north. And see how our people are jumping up and down, hooting and hollering. Now the church is different. You got booty shaking going on up in the church. I'm glad my mother ain't alive to see that. booty shaking going on. They even got some hip hop to some degree. Things have changed. But has our people, this message is held for review? Yeah, I bet. Oh, I just got a message here saying that this message is held for review. I don't know what that is referring to. Yeah, they could be, they watching me anyway, I don't care because the earthquakes is coming. Nobody's getting away from the judgments of God that's coming. Nobody. So I don't fear for my life. So anyway, with the churches, the hooting and hollering, for me it was like, what was I learning here? When I went home, my brother opened up the books and showed me a much greater truth in history that I could have ever gotten anywhere else. So some people got problems with me because, I remember running into this Cherokee sister at one of the powwows I went to. She asked me what my name was. I told her I had two names. She was like, oh, what's your other name? I said, Lamik. She said, isn't that Muslim? I looked at her. I said, it's a Muslim name. Yes. She said, how you native and you got a Muslim name? I said, are you Christian? She said, yes. I said, how the hell can you be a Christian? When did the Muslims come over here in great numbers and conquer this country? Put darker peoples in slavery, steal a country, rape, rip, rob, pillage, burn, lynch. When did the Muslims come here and do that? She ran into her teepee. You see, the when you look to see the splinter in someone else's eye, you need to check the log that's in your own eye. Yeah, she didn't come back out of her tent after that. Who you go home to pray to, that's your business. That's your business. Got no issues with that. Right? That's why I say Islam is not a religion, it's a way of life. We are taught to be truthful, to be moral, to respect your fellow man, regardless of what language, what religion he has. If he prays to God, and in kind he treats you the same way, that's the path to a true human being. So what does religion, and what I did understand when she came at me like that is because of how Islam has been portrayed in this country, because of the Middle East. But I want to take that a step further. What has the white man been doing in the Middle East for the past 120 years? Christianity. What has he been doing out there for over 100 years? And then they get upset when the Muslims start blowing themselves up. Say, what's wrong with those people? They'd rather be dead than live like that. Some of them, they do have a philosophy that their lives are meaningless in terms of how they live, and they would rather die. And if they're going to die, they're not dying alone. And they would go into some of these places, blow this up, blow that up. But they're in their own land. And people, so some of us, because of the lack of critical analysis, are ready to, oh, that's evil. How could they do that? Knowing damn well those Jews stole that land over there. This is another thing how people can not see the parallels between America and Israel. Stolen land. Huh? The Jews stole that land from those Palestinians. There was no place called Israel. See, I know the history about Israel. I know the history. That's a long story. I know the history. They stole that land from those people, and the American government helped them back in the 1940s when they were fleeing from Hitler, killing them because they had a monopoly on the markets. Hitler was cut out because he was only maybe a quarter or half Jewish. He wasn't fully Jewish, so-called. And he was upset because his family was left in poverty to some degree. He was really upset about what they did. And boy, did he take that shit out on, that was wicked, but he took it out on them. And then when they were being burned in ovens, they came over to other parts of Europe, but a lot of them came to America. People don't know that Roosevelt and them knew that the Jews were burning in ovens. They knew. The Catholic Church knew that the Jews were burning in ovens. They knew, but they did nothing until they saw an opportunity. They said oil. Come on, stay with me. Oil. Oh, the Middle East. They got plenty of it. So we'll help them go over there. They said that area is theirs. Yeah, we're going to help them go over there. So what is Israel but a little America? And we sitting back here wondering why this government supports Israel so much. So they sent them over there with guns, and some of them went over there to look for relief. The Palestinians opened their doors to these Jews from Germany. They opened their doors to them. And do you know what happened when some of them, they left their homes, they went on vacation, the Jews was in their houses? When they came back, did you know that they came out with guns? Many people do not know this. They came out with guns and they said, what are you doing? They said, this is our land now. Who does that sound like? A thug, a brute, a barbarian, started to take the country from the Palestinians. Sister, you listen, what I got up here in his head, I'm telling you now, I haven't even mentioned a quarter of what I know. That's how I've been studying history since I was 7, and I'm 57 years old. So yeah, that's what they did. And then that land was not called Israel. It was called Palestine. So what did they do? It's the American government helped to finance. They helped to finance their campaign to go steal that land from them. They changed the name. Once they got a hold of that area, they said this is no longer Palestine, it's Israel. But I tell you, that name Israel comes from a brother in the book of Genesis by the name of Jacob. In Arabic, we call him Yaqub. I'm not gonna get into that. That's a long story. It's a long story. I'm a little winded right now. I've been on here for over an hour. So they took the land, and America had been funneling. Did you know that our tax dollars go to fund Israel, and has been for over 50 years? Before I was born, they have been financing Israel. This government has been financing Israel for over 50 years, and it's coming out of our tax dollars. And now, what have they done? What have they done? They have literally destroyed more than 2/3 of the rest of the Gaza. And they don't see there's a trend here. They're not only in Palestine, what's left of it now, because it's almost gone. And people are talking about LA burning. And you don't see what our tax dollars is doing to other countries. We got the nerve to talk about other people when our finances, in other words, damn it, we got blood on our hands. And through our ignorance, it makes it even that much worse. So they are in, where else they're fighting now? Some of the other Arab countries there. We don't see the connection. America, Europe, Israel, they're going after the darker peoples. Huh? For what? He's losing control. He's losing his power. The American dollar is crashing. He ain't hit bottom yet, but right around the corner. People just, how could you support something like that? Such an evil. How could we? And don't speak out against it. Sure, most of us, we're not warlike, but if we would get off of this tribalism thing and understand who and what our enemies are, we could possibly see a future. But the way things are going, we're going just like what happened, the Crusades in the year 1000 with Salahuddin, when the white man was being deceptive about a Jesus. So you think we should be individual tribes? Sister, that goes without saying, we already are. We have different tongues. We have different cultures. We have different languages. I said there must be a common denominator, consensus, that we must recognize who our enemies are, regardless of our tribal differences, that we have a common enemy. First one, I reiterate, ignorance, stupidity. The second, this man, he's fearful of the darker peoples on the earth. Remember what I told you about the sperm? The black, the brown, the red, and yellow, and the white. The white one attacked all of the colors. And he even attacks his own. When left by himself, white folks fight themselves. Why do you think they need us? If we leave them, if we separate from them, he starts to fight and kill his own. We see that in Europe. Look what's going on with the Ukrainians and Russia. And of course, America's behind that with NATO. NATO was pushing for democracy closer and closer. Putin was already upset because of what happened under the Reagan administration when he went to Russia and said, Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And when they did tear it down, who do you think suffered? Putin. You know what he was? He was a KGB agent. They suffered, became poor. You think Putin never forgot that? He said America went into Russia, politicized the communist wall, the steel curtain. They tear it down. What was he really saying was tear down communism. That's what they knew. So when Reagan went there and said tear the wall down, the people did. They rose up. They tore it down. They changed the landscape somewhat. I think it's still communism in Russia. It's just not as severe as it was. But Putin suffered with his family. And he never forgot that shit. And now they wondering why he's playing Donald dumbass Trump like a fiddle. What do you think he's waiting on? What do you think Putin's waiting on? He's sitting back like this, tick tock, tick tock, and he's watching America. Why do you think he opened up the portals about a black Jesus on YouTube? Huh? Come on. Why do you think they opening up all of this? Because we want the big beast in the West to fall. America. We want payback for what he's done to us. Revenge is best served cold. And he know what he's doing. Dealing with a dumbass president like Trump. And look where we at. Look where we at today. It's a damn shame. Tribalism. Gonna get all of us killed. So we have not seen, we have not taken the shades off of our eyes to see what is heading our way. And because of stupidity and anger and hate, stupidity, anger, hate. Fine line between both of them, really. Some people would rather die and go to hell than to change the way they think. They're not gonna, I don't want to integrate with those people over there. Or I don't want to make a concession for unity, even though it doesn't mean that you have to integrate. But I'm going to give you an example. The Haudenosaunee Confederation. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Haudenosaunee Confederation in the Northeast, up in New York. At one time, they were splintered tribes, and they realized that they were easily attacked by others, outsiders, foreigners, whatever. And they came to a consensus that, yeah, look, the North Gate can protect the West, and the East Gate and the South protect the East and the West, and they would come to each other's aid in the midst of conflict. If one had a conflict, we would help the others. This was the Haudenosaunee Confederation. This is back after there were so many different wars that was taking place that the tribes were killing themselves, fighting over resources and land or whatever the case may be. And then some cases might have been they fought over a woman. Whatever the wars were started over, they came to a consensus that, yo, you know what? We need to watch each other, especially when the Europeans came. And it's sometimes that our people would learn to come together when we getting beat upside our head. And our God knows this. That's why he said in the scriptures, I'm going to release the red serpents on you. Now, who's that? I know, we call some of our indigenous peoples red, right? But when the white man gets in the sun, he turns cherry red. Or if you beat him upside his head, and he had nerve to call people colored, he'll turn purple, red, and blue, and black. So our people recognized that this man was causing more trouble, and we needed to organize and unite. But some of our people have not recognized that we only seem to want to work together when we're being destroyed. And that's a travesty. That's an absolute travesty, that it would take something as serious as that for us to unite. And guess what? It seems that we're headed in that direction again. So now the Ku Klux Klan, the Ku Klux Klan, the skinheads, the militias around the country, they have really been preparing from time immemorial. But now they're linking up other factions around the country. I'm paying very close attention to this shit because of what we've been through in the past. They say, oh, well, the indigenous peoples, we've never really had any problems with the Klan. You see where the blind comes in? So what have white folks been doing to you for 400 years? They just came to you in soldier uniforms. The Klan hasn't really bothered us. What has the government done to you on the reservation? You see how you can't see what's even right in front of you? You being played and manipulated? The Klan all attack black people. Shit, they didn't even like Italians in this country. Got pictures of them hanging Italians back in the day when they were just coming over here from Europe. They didn't like them because some of them were mixed. And they weren't a whitish white. And so they're playing our people. They're playing us, and we can't see that you're being played. Like a $2. I ain't gonna complete the sentence on that, but y'all get where I'm coming from. And it's sad that we are again facing a man who is hell-bent on our death and destruction. And we sitting back here wondering why. He is scared of genetic annihilation. Gene destruction. He knows when he mixes with any of the darker peoples, he starts to become deleted. It's our people who sit back and ask the dumbass questions today. Why is he so much hate? Why is he so fearful? What does he think we're going to do? We're already doing it. His sperm bank is bankrupt. He is not having children like we are. The black, the brown, the red, and yellow peoples are still producing. In terms of our propagating our people, his sperm is dwindling. He's not having children like we are. So he fears the numbers are shifting. They've really been shifted. You hear what did Biden say? It was almost like a war cry. He said the Hispanic population is going to outnumber us in less than 50 years. We had better learn to get along with them. Do you know what that did to the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant base? In the book of Exodus, one of Pharaoh's advisors came to him and said, the numbers of the slaves are increasing. We had better deal with them and deal with them wisely for what we have done to them. And we had better deal with them quickly. Let me give an example. COVID, which came from God himself. People who don't know, they think it was, governments or no. No. This was God himself. He said, God said, I'm gonna extend over Egypt and smite her with plagues. America's Egypt. In terms of what the storyline is talking about slavery. For 430 years in the book of Genesis, 15th chapter, verse 13, 14, and 15 verse, God said unto Abraham, know of his surety that thy seed shall be in a strange land for 430 years, and afterwards I will come, and I shall punish them for thine affliction, but thou shalt come out with great substance. The Jews claim that that's them biblically, but we know that there was a slave trader by the name of John Hardy Hawkins in the year 1555 who was commissioned by the Catholic Church to bring into servitude black people who were deemed outside of the graces of God. So the story is that our people here in the diaspora, now you have black people that were brought over here on slave ships. There's some people on here talking crap about this. There was no history about any slave ships. That's a lie. That is a bold-faced lie. Some Negroes need to get off that, because the white man kidnapped black people. He did. Some was sold by some African kings, right? But they didn't know about chattel slavery. See, this is what people don't read, but they talk half-cocked off the side of their faces, really don't know what they're talking about. Chattel slavery and indentured servitude, two different types of slavery. They didn't know that they didn't even know what chattel slavery was, because there was no concept from these African kings. So when they sold their people, they was like, oh, he owes for money that he couldn't pay back. So he wants to go with you. I'll let him go with you. And when they got on the slave ships, not knowing that they were slave ships, they thought indentured servitude, you come to work, you help, and you pay off your debt. And if you want to stay there, you stay there. If you want to leave, you come back home. They had no idea chattel slavery. And because they didn't know, and then those that were promised a better life, the white man had, knowing that he kidnapped some Muslims, they had the flag of the crescent moon and the star on the slave ships. But when the Muslims got on the ships, they took down the crescent moon and the star, and they put up the skull and bones. And then they opened up the lower decks and pushed them into the lower decks of the boats. So when I hear people talk about there's no record, I've been studying this, like I said, since I was 7. Some of these people who are talking that mess, they're gonna be sorry when the Lord our God reveals himself, and he's already here. Though I told you, those UFOs, those are not aliens. Those are the black, the brown, the red, and the yellow scientists that are here for our people. It's in the book. Go read it. I did. I'm not surprised about these. I call them IFOs, identified flying objects, because I know who they are without a shadow of a doubt. Because of the pyramids, the Kunti, the great engineers, scientists, the architects. That's who they kidnapped and brought to America. Jubilee, Jubilo, and Jubilum, England, France, and America. That's who they kidnapped to build their societies. It wasn't no people running around in tutus and throwing spears that built the White House, designed the Capitol. Come on, get off of that. Get off of that. Come on. We know damn well there was black people that designed the Capitol, black people that built the White House. Come on. They know that. They know that, but they wanna and then say that, they didn't kidnap any black people, that there were black people already here. Yes, there was. Yes. But do you know how hard it was for the white man to kidnap people who knew the land and the terrain and to enslave them? It was much more difficult to enslave people who knew the landscape and knew how to live in it. Why do you think he went to Africa? Because he had to deal with the people that didn't know of the landscape, and that once they got into the cold climates, oh boy, yeah, self-explanatory. Critical thinking seems like it's so vague now. But you know, it hurts my heart when I hear these brothers talking about there was no slave ships. Man, keep spewing that madness, because the God that I know is here. 1,500 baby planes, a mothership that's a half a mile by a half a mile. They keep playing. They're dealing with a God that they have no idea how powerful they are. They have no idea. So be careful in that which you spew. Be wise and think before you open your mouth. I know I've put my foot in my mouth a couple of times, but I've owned up to it. Some of our brothers and sisters, they need to do a little bit more research. I don't claim to know everything, no. But I do have a wealth of knowledge, and I do share it, and I have to, I must. Because my God said, have you fed the flock? Our people who are like sheep, scattered, misinformed, miseducated, confused, blind, deaf, and dumb in some regards. So I'm sorry again to have to go off into this rant, you know, my brothers and sisters. I just hope that I'm able to get some semblance of an understanding of the situation that we are currently in, what we're facing now, and more and worse to come tomorrow. And when I say tomorrow, I'm just meaning in the near immediate future, because I've read the books on the revelations and the judgments that were promised to affect this country. America was predicted to prophesize to go first, and then the European powers, they would follow right thereafter. And if you look, this thing is happening so fast. You know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us it's going to happen so fast your head's going to spin. And now look at L.A. The West Coast is going to burn up. That's what was taught to me. And the East Coast is going to get flooded. It's that serious. You know, I had this one white man, you know, teaching a couple of his workers, and one of them happened to have been Hispanic, Puerto Rican. You know, he went back and told his boss, I worked for this guy for a little bit. He went back like a spoiled brat. Went back and told his boss what I told him. And his boss came into me in my face talking about that I was arrogant. He let me go. He didn't care. I'm going to teach regardless. I got my own business. So when he wanted to let me go, I was like, I'm cool. You know, you want to let me go. But he ain't, in the near future, even now, he's probably looking at the weather around the country and saying, oh shit, is there some truth to what I said? Oh yeah, shit, yeah. Excuse my language. There's great truth behind this. Sad, because it has to come to this. The destruction has to come here, because America is immoral, unjust, wicked, and unholy. And she becomes even more arrogant in the midst of her own destruction. She doesn't seem to want to repent nor change. The government nor its people. So you're going to suffer, as Pharaoh was warned. And then what happened with Pharaoh? He didn't take heed to what Moses told him about dealing with the oppression of the slaves. And therefore, Pharaoh was drowning. Blah, 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 blah. He was drowning. Blah, 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 blah. He said, now I believe in the God of Moses. When he was drowning. Where's the White House? On the East Coast? I said the flood? Did you know that the White House, I think it was maybe about several years ago, they had water in the basement of the White House? There was a flood in the basement. Anybody could get touched or get got. And if you think God can't come after you in your foolishness, there's no invulnerability. No one is exempt from the judgment. So whether you native, black, brown, Hindu, West Indian, black American, black African, native, red, brown, it don't matter. It don't matter what we are. As human beings, we all gonna suffer. And we already are suffering. But God is gonna wipe this thing clean. A new slate. And the scripture says only gonna be 144,000. And of those that have the knowledge sealed of God in their foreheads. The knowledge of God. Again, Corinthians, God said, many of you have not the knowledge of me. I say this to your shame. Because we've been looking for a spook. You think that God is not real. You think that he's not in a physical form. And it's not just he, it's they. If you read the scriptures, you read the book of Genesis. Next time, Sister Ty, look at the book of Genesis when Eve allegedly ate from the tree of life that she wasn't supposed to eat. And they were hiding as though you can hide from a spirit. God was walking in the cool of the day looking for Adam and Eve. You know how many people I spoke to or Christians didn't think about that? It says that God said he was walking in the cool of the day looking for Eve and Adam. They hid because they were ashamed. What were they ashamed of? She ate from the apple. The apple, Adam's apple. Was it an Adam's apple? Adam? Apple? How do you hide from a spirit that walks? Critical analysis. Tribalism. And on that note, I'm going to hang this up. And I'm going to say Wadoska. Many thanks to my brothers and sisters. Seems like I got one of you guys on here today. I appreciate the time immensely. Only time I really come on here is when the spirit takes me. I'm gonna tell you, this tribalism thing really got me because I see what's coming. And I think about my own children. My son is 13, my daughter's 20. My little girl talking about moving to Canada. So ain't nowhere we can run. You know. I think about them, but I don't love them more than I love the Lord, thy God. I love my kids. I do. But I know that this system, this way of doing things, it has to come. And God is going to be the one to bring it to its knees. So I have to tell it, you know, like with anything that has been given warning, you hope and pray within that time frame for being forewarned that there would be an acknowledgement, a reaction that would bring about change. So far, people are so far gone into the belief that there is a God. I could do what I want. I can live how I want, do what I want, and that's the nature of the beast. Because it's easier to do wrong and harder to do right. So we live on the lower level below our waist. Or should I say right at the waist. The lower nature of man has become normal in this society, which is a wicked nature. And he has managed to bring out the worst even in the original inhabitants of this planet. And that's us. He's brought out the worst in us. And it's so sad. My heart aches when I think about it. But like I said, on that note, thank you. And until we meet again, Donadago Honey, Anigido, peace and blessings, brothers and sisters. End out with some music. Hold on. Got any questions, Ty? You done? Are you still there? What time is it? Damn, it's 11 o'clock already. Wow, time is flying. You know, I look at the question, Ty, if you're still there, I just wanted to quickly expound on that some more about individual tribalism. We're always going to have tribalism. But God said, He said to us, be communal. Get to know, talk to your people that you may know one another. Learn from your brother and your sister who might live across the way. So we're not always gonna live in the same environments. So it's natural to have different tribes and customs. That's the beauty of our cultures. We all have something to offer each other. But when we allow it to become divisive to the point where when there's problems, we don't know how to deal with problems in a civilized manner, we end up fighting each other. So tribes are always going to be a thing. How do we reduce the tribes? You can have a whole nation of like an amalgam of tribes, but we live under one banner. We have different cultures and it's like here in America today, you have different tribes and cultures today that exist. But we're supposed to be all American, right? When you think about that, you're like, how far has that brought us? Now it seems as though there are some tribes that are linking and uniting in the country. Yes, there are some. Should be more, absolutely. And it's only in the light of, or should I say in lieu of, the oppression by the government. And it shouldn't be that way. We should learn to break bread with each other more. Interact with each other more. The powwows that we hold, it's a good example. I think we need to hold more powwows throughout the country and have speakers that would come and give good sermons to better educate the people, to exhort our people to better better relations, community relations around the country, and recognize those who are not in the best interest in our communities and weed them out. So yeah, again, for the individual tribes, it's always going to be that, always. But we can better um, uh, reinforce our indigenous cultural morals to incentivize us to work together in times of peril or in good times, because we can't let the sole idea that only times that we really do come to each other's aid is when we're in serious peril from outside forces that would more or less want to hurt our people rather than help us, and then we'll come to each other's aid only in that regard. No, even in good times, we should learn to help our people. Trade, business, commerce. I might have something that you need, and vice versa. Trade. We used to do that, but we need to do better. We need to do better, and we can't let superficial things define us and be tempered easily. We cannot let our emotions get the best of ourselves. We must learn to be respectful of our different cultures. This is a must to avoid strife and conflict. We must learn to be respectful and courteous and professional amongst our brothers and sisters from other tribes. We must do this, or we will not survive. We will forever be at each other's throats. And I actually know and understand from history that these things have happened, and even today, these things are going on. There's no respect anymore. A demonic spirit has seemed to enter into a lot of our people, and we know where this comes from. That the spirit of tribalism, dissecting and dividing our people who are whispering in our people's ears. We must teach our children to be respectful at a young age, courteous, professional at a young age, and they must see this through examples from their mother, their fathers, and their communities. That's how you spread levels of respect, humility. You must start with the young, but the old have to set the example. They must set the example so that the children may be molded in that. And if we can't do it as a collective throughout the tribal communities, it'll never work. It'll never work. We will, again, forever be lost and destroyed. Change has to come. It has to come. All right? So, any responses, any questions before I sign off? I'm a little winded. Yeah. All right. So again, say Donada, honey and Nigido, peace and blessings to my people. I hope these communications find you in good spirits, and I leave you in peace. In our language, again, we say Donada, honey and Nigido. I love you, my peoples. Peace and blessings.